Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and this Python tutorial series. I am Aditya. Before I begin, I would like to tell uh, that some of the comments that I'm receiving on my videos, they are really nice, they're really great, but unfortunately they are somehow not visible on the YouTube videos of my on my YouTube videos. So I'm just trying to figure it out that mostly I guess it's they're getting blocked somewhere. Also I see in my dashboard maybe I'm not able to see them. So I just want to take this opportunity to thanks all those people for those positive comments, and also thank you for supporting me till now. Please keep supporting this channel and I'll be happy to provide more amazing content. So let's begin with our video now. So in the last video, we saw how to handle files. We created a JSON file, records.json, and we did a file handling on that while adding the extra functionalities to our Python class. Now this time, we are going to take a step forward and we are going to make it like a somewhat like a CRUD operation with command line. So we'll just have certain option, user selects the option, takes in the option, and then we process it. Okay, so let's begin. Now in our here we have our objects. Now what I'm going to do, first I'm going to go to uh, manager.py, create an object over here and run this file, and also side by side I'm going to, instead of deleting the record here, I'm going to print something here. So what I'm going to do, I will just print. So I will go over here, print details. Yeah, I'll just print this line. So say print details, and does it take any arguments? I don't think so. No. So we will just remove this. Okay. Now let's go to manager.py. We already have an object over there that we created in the last videos. Now let's run this. So I will say python manager.py, and if you see, like I'm getting the salary, or rather I'm not getting the salary. Sorry, I'm getting the team ID of the manager. Sorry, just the wordings over here and there. So let's make this salary because we are getting the salary. Even I'm getting confused, so I'm pretty much sure you guys are getting confused as well. So let's now go back again and run this code. So if you see, we are getting the salary of manager, but also we are getting these details over here. So if I go over here, we are getting this details. But if you notice, we are just running the manager.py. We are not running the employee file. So why it's happening? Because once we import the file and inherit it, or when we use it in our Python code, whatever is in that file, this code also gets executed. So that's why instead of creating objects and calling them in a file, it's okay till the development mode. But if you are doing it in an option, or sorry, in an application, the best thing to do is keep all the classes and their functions in one file, or sorry, keep one class and their function in one file, not the classes, but one class and their functions and attributes and everything in one file, and create a separate file which calls these classes and use them accordingly. Okay, so what we are going to do now, we will, if I comment out from here, if I remove this and if I run it now, you will see that this part of code is not executed. So what we are going to do, we will also do the same thing for manager. So we'll just remove this, and here in the same folder we will create a separate file which is main.py. Okay, you can name this file anything. You can name it app.py, you can name it src.py, source.py, main12345.py, anything, doesn't matter. But its function is going to be this code, or this file will be responsible for calling all the classes and other dependencies and use them in this file. Okay, so mostly we won't follow an object oriented programming structure in this. We will follow the functional programming that we did in the tutorial.py. So let's proceed. So what we are going to do, first we are going to import employee and manager. So what I'm going to say, I will say from manager import manager, and from employee import employee, so that I can use now these classes and their objects, or I can create object using these classes. Now next thing to do is we can now here we will first write a, so let's create the logic first. So we will have a print statement telling to the user that okay, these are the options, select one option, and then we'll just follow the traditional route of taking in the options and processing it. or just like taking the option and showing the details. Okay, so now how to do that? So first let's take an variable which will be choice. So I'll say choice, and by default let's give this choice a value. So we'll say the value would be like 1, something like this. And then now here we will have our while loop. So if you remember, while loop keeps on continue, it's like it keep on executing, or it will keep on running, and as long as the condition provided to it is true. Okay, so what we will say, while and choice not equal to 0. You'll come to know why we took this 0. Okay, so now as long as choice is not equal to 0, this loop will keep on running. Okay, so now let's do like this. We will say print select a, or select an option rather, and then rather let's do it as an input, so we can take it as a choice. So we'll say choice equal to input select an option. So once we have an option, then we need to provide the options. So we will just print the options before. So here we will say print. So so if we go to our employee file, we have one for inserting in the file, one for deleting from the file, reading the file, finding one record, or finding all records. Also we have yeah, these things only, nothing much. So we have print details as well. So let's keep this basic and minimalistic so the video is not too long. So let's have choices for inserting in the file, reading the file, and finding records. Okay, so let's do like this. Actually I didn't cover this concept, but let's cover it now here. So if you see, if you want to do this big string, you cannot do it on one, like multiple lines. So how to do this on multiple lines? So let's first write the entire string, and then we will just print it over here. So we will say so new line, and then it came on new line, and then the third would be show all records, and then we show all records for a match, because we are taking either an ID or mostly the name, and for all those names we want all the records for that name. Then we will have again a new line, and we will say for, without space actually, delete record. Okay, let's keep it till this thing, and last but not the least we will have 5, and we will have it exit. Okay, so here also we need a new line like this. Now once we have this, now how to put this all on multiple lines? So what we are going to do, we will just cut from here, go over here, and we will say mostly like slug, or you can take any variable, and we will paste it over here. And now to put it on a new line, you put 3 quotes like this and 3 quotes like this. So this becomes one single line. Okay, so now here let's do slug. Okay, now for now let's not take any option, and let's run this code and let's see what happens. So if I do python main.py, if I run this, you'll see the while loop keeps on getting repeated, like it will keep on getting repeated. So let's stop this and let's see what we are getting. So we are getting show file content record, and then here we are getting extra space. So let's do it like this, and let's remove the while loop for now, and let's bring them over here so we can just see it printed once. Your screen and run it. So we are getting this. So show one file, show all files, and I guess here we don't need this. If I run it again, yes. Show file content, show one record, show all records for a match, delete a record, and exit. Okay, now let's do now let's take it like accept the choice and then proceed forward. So we will take it back again over here, and let's uncomment this loop. Let's take in the choice. Okay, so once we have a choice, now we need to use if else ladder. Okay, in Python, till now there is no switch case, so you need to use something like if else ladder. Okay, so what we are going to do, we will say if choice equal to, now remember this is going to be string input. Okay, so let's convert this into integer input. So we'll say int like this, and we will say if choice equal to 1, then we will write a code over here for file content, or rather let's do like this, file content display. Okay, and let's put pass over here. Okay, else, sorry, elif, then if suppose choice equal to 2, we will say one record code. So we will just write that code over here, show one record. Now we'll just write else if for all these 3, 4 and 5, and then we will add the code one by one. So I'll just skip the part, and then we will just start once the structure is ready. All right, so we have our if else ladder ready, and now let's just run this code and let's see what we get. So if I run this code now, we have certain options. So let's try to enter an option out of these things. So we will say 9, and it says incorrect choice, because if you see here we have a else loop. So all this thing would get checked one by one, and if nothing matches over here, it goes to the else loop. So if I put the third one, it will just proceed normally. Okay, so on 5 it should exit, so we'll just have an exit condition over here. Okay, now let's write our code one by one. So for one choice we need to show the file content. Okay, so what we were gonna do, we will just create the employee object. So we will say employee equal to employee, and here if you notice we need to give certain name and some attributes to proceed forward. Okay, because our employee class by default needs some values. Okay, so what we are gonna do, we are gonna do something like this. We'll put the name as blank, ID as blank, salary as 0, and role as blank. Okay, so that we can create an object and read the file without having to pass the values, because we don't have the values by this time. Okay, so then once we have that object, we are going to say emp dot read from file. Okay, now this thing is going to give a string, so we need to print this, print like this. Now if I run this code again, let's do show content, we are getting the content of the file over here. Okay, so let's do this. After we show our content, let's put a print over here for new line. Okay, some double new lines like this, and let's also put it over here like this, and we will say file content. Okay. Now let's run this code. Show content and file contents. We have all the file contents. We'll just remove the space and we will have the file contents with a new line like this. Okay, so now we can see the file content. Now let's go proceed forward to display a record or show one record. So if you notice over here in our find one record, we are taking what we want to find it and the value. So what we are going to do, we'll give choice to the user. We will say, okay, what you want to find? Is it ID? Is it name? And after that, once they have it, we will also ask them like what value they want to find. Okay, so let's go over here to our main.py, and let's write over here. So first we will need the find by what. So we'll say find by what equal to, of course you can take any variable name, it doesn't matter. So we will say here we want to find it by, so we will say input. So this is going to be a choice again, because we need to make sure that the correct keys are taken in. Okay, so what we are going to do, we will provide again an if else loop. Okay, so what we can do, we can have this in a different function and have that function call over here, and whatever the value comes, we can just return it. Okay, so what we will do, we will write a new function. So let's go out of this while loop for a moment and write here function to show one record. For that we will say function for taking input or showing one record. Okay, so we'll say def input for one record. Okay, we have this now. Now let's write this function. Remember, we are not passing any self over here because we don't need it. Okay, so now next thing to do, we will say find by what equal to int, because it's going to be a choice again, and we will say input what by what you want to find the record, and we will then have one for name, or rather like this, by name, and new line. So we won't give a space over here like this, and we will say 2, so not space over here as well, and we will say 2 by id, and then here we will have a new line so that user can enter the input. Once they enter the input, we need to then take the value. So how we are going to do it, we will say if find by what, or rather it's, as there are just two, like it's either 1 or it's either 2. So, oh sorry, we cannot do like a ternary operator, we need to do it in an if else ladder again. So we'll say if, because we need to find the condition where they are not entering between 1 and 2. So find by what equal to 1, then we will say value equal to int, and here we will have sorry, if it's name then we don't need input, or rather for both cases we don't need integer, we need input but not integer, so we'll just take it as a string, and we will say enter the, if it's 1 then we will say name of the employee. Okay, now this will take in the value for employee, and we will break the statement here, or no need of break statement as well. So we will say elif find by what equal to 2, then we will say value equal to input, enter the id of the employee. Okay, and else when nothing is true we will just say print incorrect choice. Now if you notice we don't have a while loop over here, so this function will go back again, but we don't want it to take the user's choice again for all these 5. So what we are going to do, we will recall this input for one record again. So what we are going to do, we will say input for one record. So this is known as calling the first function recursively. Okay, so we are calling this function again and again and again and again unless and until we get a accurate choice. Okay, because in this to loop, in this to if and else, we are not calling this function, but here we are calling it again. Okay, so after we have this, like we also need a space over here, and let's make it consistent like this. So we have the name, we have the id, whatever we want, and then once we have everything, what we are going to do, we will just say return, and here we are going to return a dictionary. Okay, so we will say key will be find by what, and value is value, whatever the value is. Okay, and then we will call this function over here, show one record. So we will have a key value pair, and we will call that function over here. Okay, so it needs to define before, because the thing is it is defined after our while loop and Python goes line by line, so we need to define the function before. So we'll take it upstairs over here before the choice actually, and now that error should go. Yeah, the error went off. Okay, so just make sure that you are doing it line by line. Okay, in order rather. Now let's just print this key value pair. Okay, now let's go over here, rerun the code. Let's say to one record, Now it's asking us whether you want by name, by ID. Now if I enter something apart from 1 and 2, it should show me these options again. It shouldn't show me those, like it shouldn't ask me to select one option from those 5 options again. Okay, so if I say 6, it's saying no, incorrect choice. By what you want to find the record, something like that. Okay, we can also put an exit condition here, but we will do it once we have the exit condition for this as well. So we can just like copy paste it, or we can just write a function for an exit condition as well. Okay, so I want to find it by name. So now it's asking enter the name of the employee. I'll say Aditya, and we are getting a error over here. So let's see what's the error. So it says return local variable value referenced before assignment. Okay, so we are using it before assigning a value to this. So what we are going to do, we will say value equal to blank. Okay, now let's run this again. So show one record by name Aditya, and we are getting the correct thing. Key is 1, so key we are getting 1, so we need to do it like a name or ID. Okay, so how we are going to do it, we will go in our over here, and we will say if find by what. So before we return this, so let's take a variable key. Okay, and this key, they would be name if find by what equal to 1, else if this find by what is not equal to 1, then this value would be ID. Okay, so we are finding either by name or ID. Okay, so now let's rerun this again and let's see what we get. So let's do this again, and Aditya. So we are getting oh sorry, I'm not passing a key over here. So let's run it again, Aditya, and here we are getting key as name and value as Aditya. So we'll use this key value pair and pass it to our employees find one record function. So let's do that now. So here, once we have that key value pair, we will say same thing, like we'll just copy this code and we will say emp dot find one record. And how we are going to find it, we need a find by what. So key value pairs, key will be our find by what, and key value pairs value will be our value. Okay, now this is returning a record, so we need to print this statement. So we'll say print. Let's go over here and let's say print like this. Okay, now let's try it out. We will also need this new line over here. Okay, if you notice, we are repeating this code again and again. Okay, so what we are going to do, we'll create a function to print it and we will just pass the content in that. Okay, so what we will do, we'll just copy this part. Let's write a function here, def print details, or rather print content. Okay, and then here it will be a content, and we will just paste the code over here, and then instead of file contents, we will say contents. Okay, and we will say here print the content. And then what we are going to do, instead of writing this code again, we will simply say print content, and we will say emp dot read from file. Okay, now this we can also copy here and here, and we will say instead of print, we will say print content, like whatever content we are getting after we pass this, or the return value of this key value pair function or this object function. So this function will return us certain value. Same for this, it will return us that value. We are passing that value in this function. So this is nothing but it's our content over here, and this content will get print out. Okay, so we don't need pass. Also, we don't need pass over here. So let's see what's wrong we're doing. So there's, okay, let's see. They're expected by, oh yes, we have this and we need one more round bracket over here. Cool. So that's gone. And now let's do it like this. Yeah. So now we have it for one record we have it now, we need it for the all the records. Okay, so what we are gonna do, we will just have this same thing again. Okay, so all record for a match, we will have it the same thing again, but instead of find one record, we will call other function which would be find all records. So we'll go over here and we will say find all records, because find all records also take the same argument, find by what and find what value, and then we can just use that function to find all the records. Okay, so if you now see why we took this as a separate function, so we can rewrite that code and reuse it. So we are trying to reuse code as much as possible, or try to have it in a function call so that we don't have to write it again and again, and that's the main purpose of using functions. Okay, so we have now this. Now let's do it for the delete record. So for delete record, we are doing the same thing. We are taking find by what and value, and then we are deleting the record and returning something. We are returning either -1, or we are returning like a flag, like 0, -1 or 1. Okay, so let's go over here again, sorry, in this one, and let's copy this. So we don't need pass again over here. Let's copy this code. Let's go to delete record, and here what we are going to do, we will say instead of find all records, we will say delete record. So we'll say delete record, and instead of printing the content, we will take that over here like a response. Okay, because this is going to return 0, 1, -1, and then what we're going to do, we will say if response equal to 1, then we will print value, sorry, record for, and if you notice we have over here key value pair, so we'll say record for, let's do it with our one line, something like this. So we'll say record for key value pair, and whatever the value is, value, let's do it in single quotes, is deleted. Okay, so we deleted that record successfully. Also we can do it for this, like if else if response equal to 0, and we will print nothing to delete. Because if I go again over here, if you see if this response is 1, oh sorry, if the response is 0, then there is nothing to delete. If there is 1, then it was deleted. So let's go back again here, and let's, yeah, we are doing it correctly. And last one would be else, and then if it was -1, that means the key entered wasn't correct. So we will just put over here not a correct key. Rather, we don't need this to handle, because our this function is handling that error for us. Okay, so okay, we need either print or return. So let's do print, not a correct key. So now we have our delete block also ready, and now do it for the exit. So if you notice, our while loop will terminate if choice becomes equal to 0. Okay, so what we will do, we will say here choice equal to 0, and then our while loop will terminate. So let's go again over here and run this code entirely. So we'll do clear screen. Let's do show content. We are getting the content as it is. Let's do show one record. So I want record for, say, Adi. So we are getting the error here. So it is saying by what you want to find. Okay, so right, so this we are taking is at int, and we have passed the letters over here. Okay, now this is where we can use the try catch block, and we can say like, okay, if this was something wrong, then just throw the error. So what we are going to do, we will say try all these things and except print only numbers are allowed, and we will just rerun this function again. Okay, so let's do it. again, let's go for show one record. Let's type name. It says only numbers are allowed. You cannot write any characters. So it will now go back again over here. Let's do now one. Okay, name of the employee Adi, and now it's throwing us error again. So it is saying non-type object is not subscriptable. Okay, so let's go to line 46. So now we need to do the same thing over here. We will say response. Have it over here as response. And this thing is correct. Now let's go back again over here. Control C, CLS. Show all records. I want to find this time by ID. Let's say let's do ID. And what's the ID of the employee? Let's type random ID if it shows us the error. So it says nothing. So it was a blank thing. Okay. So this gave us nothing, and now okay. So why it's not showing us the print statement? That is nothing to do. No, sorry, we don't have a fallback over here saying that no record was found. So what we need to do, we need to write a code over here, which if there is nothing returned, like if this is a blank list or if this is false, then we should just put it as like no record found. So if I go over here, we have find all records false, we have this as false, we here also false. So if this is false, what we are going to do in our main.py, let's put it on like a space over here. So we have find one record, and here we will do if response, or rather if not a response, then we will just print no records were found, and we will have a new line, of course, and we will have a return statement after this. So we will say, so that the code, or rather if we have a break will also do. So we'll say break, we'll here also say break, and then this will break from the outside loop. So let's see how it works. Okay, so let's clear screen. Let's do show one record. I want to find by ID, so let's do ID, and let's do a random ID. No records were found, and the loop was terminated. So we don't want the loop to be terminated. So what we are going to do, we will say continue. Let's try continue. Okay, so let's go over here, show one record, ID, no records were found, and then it went back again over here. If you notice, it didn't go to this line. Why? Because continue. So I guess we didn't cover this, so let's quickly cover this. So break statement breaks out of the parent loop, so in this case while loop. Continue statement will continue the loop, the parent loop, and not the code after this. Okay, so it will just continue the parent loop. In this case, it will go back again to the while loop and it will continue over here. Okay, so this is like break and continue. So we have that. Now let's try the delete records. We'll go for, or rather let's find the so let's show the content, and let's find for the ID 890606. So we will say show one record for ID 890606, and we are getting the content, which is this one. So we have now let's go forward to deleting a record. So we will say delete a record, and this time I want to delete a record, so it will delete all the records. So we just need to do by ID like this, and if I type a random ID like this, it will say nothing to delete, and then I will go again for a delete a record, go again over here, and I will do 890606, and now it will show me record for 890606 is deleted, and if I show file content, it would be empty, so there won't be any content in the file. Okay, now let's exit this, and here we are. So let's quickly also write a code for inserting in the file. So what we are going to do, we will say here, so let's make this 6 and let's do 5. So now let's go over here and let's quickly write. So this will become for 6 because we are exiting on 6, and here we will say L if choice equal to 5. We will now need to take the input from the user. Okay, so what we need, so first we need, if I go to employee, so once we create the record, insert in file, we are taking the name, ID, role, salary. Okay, so let's have those fields. The sequence I have done is more like an upside down, so sorry for that. And we will say enter ID of the employee. Okay, what we could do, we can write a function here to insert. Okay, so let's do that. I'll tell you why we are writing a function. So I'll go over here and I will say okay, and here we will print, or rather paste, what we have. And then once we have what we pasted, the next thing to do is to make sure that all the values are entered. Okay, so we will say if name, so let's do like this, if name not equal to blank, and we need to do salary, so we'll have not again over here, not equal to sorry, we need to make sure that this is not less than 0, so we need to make sure that it is more than 0, and not role equal to and not ID equal to blank. So if they are not blank, then we will do over here, like we will insert that record. So we'll say emp equal to employee. Now there is name, ID, salary, role. So we'll say name, ID, salary, role. Okay, and we will do emp dot insert in file. Okay, else we will say print you need to provide all the information correctly. Okay, basic validation. So we will just do it on a new line like this, and then what we need to do, just rerun this function. We'll say add record. Okay, and once we have this done, we will say return true. So that means this insert function went well. Now let's go back over here, and here we will say response equal to, or rather let's return this as a list. So we saw how to return it as a dictionary. Let's return it as a list. So we'll say name, ID, salary, role. Okay, and here we will say response equal to, so whatever we have got, so we'll say in add record, and if response, then we will say print record was added success. Okay, sorry, added success. Let's see if I have spelled it correctly, fully, for, and then we need to put the name. So we'll say response of 0 in mustache bracket or brace bracket or curly bracket. And also we can print other things like ID, salary, role, but for now let's just print name. Now let's try this out. So let's clear this and let's do insert record. So we'll say insert record, name of the employee is Aditya, sorry Aditya, salary of the employee, let's put some random number, role of the employee, let's put something random, ID of the employee, again something random, and then it says record was added successfully for Aditya. So let's see if it was really added. So file content, and yes, we have the record over here for the Aditya. So this is how you can create a CRUD operation, or actually it's not CRUD, it's just CRD. So create, read, delete, and finding is like it comes under read only. So this is how you could do a CRD operation with Python. We like I have purposely not done the update. I'll leave that to you. So just as a test, you could consider, and just let me know in the comment section once you do it for the update how you have done it. I would be very happy to have a look and just give you some feedback if you like. So that's all for me for this video and this tutorial series. So hope you enjoyed this series and hope you like this series and you learned from this. If you feel that something would have done differently or something, there are some rooms for improvement, please let me know in the comment section. I'm very happy to get your feedback. And thank you for supporting for this entire series. And thanks again for patiently watching each video if you have come till this far. So thanks again and keep supporting this channel. So till the next video, goodbye and see you soon.